Okay, so a little bit of a hectic day, hectic morning, but there are a couple things I wanted to say before we get my day underway, in which it is really busy. There are about 6 events that happen in somebody's life. You're born, you're a kid, you're a teenager, you're an adult, you get old, and then you die. Yeah, I know, kind of sad. The last one anyway, the other ones are not that bad. So it's important to live every day possible as best as you can. And that's what we're working on right now. So, really busy day, a lot of things to do. Right now we're headed to Tracy, California. I've got some things that I need to take care of down there, and later we're headed to a brewery, Morgan Territory Brewing Company, where I'm pretty good friends with the owner. He's gonna go ahead and give us a tour behind the scenes, may even let me pour some beers, but we're definitely gonna have some beers later. Currently on the road right now. Yes, driving with the camera in the other hand is probably not the smartest thing one wants to do. Probably got about 45 minutes or so before we actually get to Tracy. Advertisement. I hate milk personally, but a lot of people like it, so there you have it. Okay, so arrived at the first destination. I figured I'd make this real quick. I'm not quite sure whether or not I'm going to be able to film in there. Okay, so the meeting's over. Clearly there isn't any footage up because they were a little uncomfortable with cameras in the room. And it took a lot longer than I originally thought it would. It was only supposed to be about an hour. I was in there for 2.5 hours. Luckily enough, it went extremely well. I got everything done that I needed to get done, and a little less stress to deal with for the rest of the day. And of course, I've had more stressful issues come up since, but we'll address that later. So luckily enough for me, right across the street from said meeting was a coffee shop. It is called Baristas. It is located downtown Tracy, right across the street from Bank of America. Back when I used to live here, it wasn't here. Thought I'd stop in. Got an iced mocha. Absolutely delicious. So if you're in the area looking for good coffee, Baristas, downtown Tracy, place to go. Behind me here, this is behind the shop. That would be in front of said shop. And it's a nice little place to sit back here. They've obviously got seats within the shop itself, but I thought I'd enjoy a little alone time in this nice cool alley, chill for a minute before we make the next run. Coffee break done. Best Buy. Okay, in Best Buy, I've somehow made my way to the video game corner simply because, interesting story, I ended up finding what I needed right here. Sad part was I had to take one they already had out. I had to make sure that it would work for this camera, and then I could not get it back in the box. I completely destroyed it. So I just kind of sat it down and then took one in which I had not ripped the packaging and destroyed. Sorry, Best Buy, things happen sometimes, and yeah. Okay, Best Buy, done. Bag in hand. God, it's bright out here. I'm always the kind of person, when I know what I need to get, I get in, I get it, and I get out, because I don't like to linger anywhere longer than need be. That's a cop. I didn't do anything. Look at this, guys. Morgan Territory Brewing Company. We finally made it, located in Tracy, California. We're gonna go inside now, get ourselves a drink, wait for the owner to show up, and we'll take it from there. He made it. That's Vic. I'm Steve. One of my best friends. Known him for 10 years. He just made it after work. Vic?
Yep. How's it going, brother?
Always a pleasure.
Always. Oh,
So how was work?
It was fun.
What is that you got there?
An empty glass.
An empty glass.
Of no regrets.
No regrets. One of the best beers they have here. If you're ever here, I suggest trying it.
It's number 5. Somewhere.
Just
guessing like right
number
here.
5.
I'm guessing somewhere over there.
Right there. No regrets. Pale ale. Absolutely delicious.
Let's get the last drop.
So, he's here after work. We're enjoying a beer.
Yep.
That would be Mike. That is one of the owners of said establishment, scratching his head. He's going to get ready to take us on a tour of the back there. and we're going to see how this empty glass, which was once
Get filled again.
full of beer, somehow makes it to this table. Yay, high.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out. It's magic.
We always figure it out. So we finally made it to the back. This is Mike.
What up?
I've met him a couple times. He's gracious enough to give us a tour of his brewery here. Mike, always a pleasure.
Heck yeah.
So go ahead and whenever you're ready, bud.
All right, I'll kind of walk you through the process of brewing beer. The first step is obviously the ingredients that you use, and the main ingredient of beer is two-row barley, and it gets delivered to this silo right here, and it gets pneumatically blown up this tube right here. And
we're gonna check out the tube.
Pull a truck up and just blow it up this tube and fill it from there. And when we're ready to brew, we use an auger, and that moves the grain from this is called the boot down here, and it moves it up and over the tasting room.
For anybody wondering, this would be the tasting room. That's where we're going now.
The tube up here, and up in that dark room up there, it gets milled. And when we're milling the grain, basically what we're doing is we're just cracking the husk of the two-row barley. We're not grinding it into a flour or anything like that. And what that enables us to do is basically extract the sugars from the grain. So it gets milled up there, and then it comes down into this container right here, which is in our tasting room. This container right here is called a grist case. It holds our milled grain, and when we're ready to actually brew beer, it moves through this tube once again via an auger up and over. You can follow it, a little roller coaster ride, up and over to our brew house, and this is kind of where all the magic actually happens. The vessel system. This vessel looks like one vessel, but it is actually a combination unit. The bottom half holds our preheated hot water. The top half is what is called the mash tun. What happens is the grain comes up and down here into here, and we mix it with warm water. It's hot water actually, and what we're doing there is we're basically extracting the sugars out of the grain. And after we've done that, we move that, basically it's sugar water, over into this boil kettle, where it boils anywhere from an hour to up to 4 hours, depending on our efficiency of extracting sugars or whatever the recipe calls for. And we boil it, and basically what happens when we're boiling it is we're basically pasteurizing it. It's killing any sort of bacteria, molds, anything that might contaminate the beer. It's also where a lot of the hop additions occur. Generally there are 3 hop additions. The first one is your bittering hop addition. The next one is your flavor hop addition, and you also have a aroma hop addition as well. The bittering one is the first hop addition. The flavor and aroma ones are at the very end of the brewing process.
Is that a process that happens with what you just described, or does that happen somewhere else altogether?
What's that?
The whole cooling situation.
The cooling thing, so we basically run this boiling hot liquid through this, which is a heat exchanger. It doesn't look like much, but what we're doing is we're basically running reverse osmosis water concurrent to the beer, or at this point it's actually called wort. It is not yet beer, it's just basically sugar water. That knocks it down to about 85 degrees, and from there it goes through a second heat exchanger to be hooked up, or these hoses are actually hooked up to this second heat exchanger right here, which has glycol running through it. That is able to knock it down from about 85 degrees to about 65 degrees. We could get it lower than that, but that's pretty much an ideal temperature for starting the fermentation process.
So just for anybody wondering, if you notice with what he said over there, he mentioned reverse osmosis, and I have to tell you, if you've ever been in high school, you learned that in biology, science class, don't say it never taught anybody anything in the real world. It makes beer absolutely amazing.
That's right. Yeah, we use reverse osmosis water here, and then we actually can add salts and minerals back to the water to get whatever water profile we want from wherever in the world. Back to where we were at, It gets knocked down to about 65 degrees right here at this the last heat exchanger. It's glycol run. And then it goes into one of these fermenters over here. These fermenters basically is where all the fermentation takes place. You move that wort into one of these, and probably about 95% of the fermentation process takes place in the first 2 or 3 days, at which point we are trying to slowly, I don't want to say crash the yeast, but settle out the yeast from the beer.
Okay, I did have one question for you real quick as we're talking about the fermenting of the barrels and whatnot. Are each one of these barrels here for a specific type of beer, or is that how that works back here, or do we have barrels for each individual beer? Is that completely something different?
So each one of these vessels we don't have a beer dedicated to any one single fermenter. So we'll brew an IPA into there once, and then it'll follow up with a cream ale, or then we'll follow up with a Scotch ale or whatever. So it's not dedicated to one particular beer. When it's all done fermenting, the next step is, for most beers anyways, is to filter. And I hope it's where the filter is where it belongs.
So he's gonna go take us to the filter.
All right, so we are ready to filter the beer. We pass it through this, which is basically has pads, and we put little filters between every single one of these pads. And it basically removes any sort of particulate out of the beer. It takes sometimes just an hour to filter the beer. Sometimes it can take 6 hours on the beer. It depends on the style of the beer and how much of the particulate settled out naturally on its own. From there, basically we filter into an empty fermenter, or more often than not, because we're using all these fermenters to make beer, we'll filter it into which is called a bright tank or a serving tank. You can tell the difference because it does not have the conical bottom like the fermenters do. From here, we're ready to keg it out, and that is kind of the final step of our beer making process.
This entire time. You?
I'm walking.
He's just walking.
It's actually probably more of a drive-in cooler. It is quite large. This is it right here. So this is a walking cooler.
I don't know if you guys can hear me right now. If you're seeing this, that's what heaven looks like. Isn't that what heaven looks like?
That's what dreams are made of.
Dreams. You gotta love it.
But yeah, you can take a walk in there, and
Audio's gonna probably be pretty shitty in here. It's super loud. This right here, I'm in heaven, and anybody else would be too. Look at all of this beer. It just doesn't come out of a tap. It goes through a process. It's a beautiful thing. I'm loving it. Okay, so I haven't quite put that in the video yet. He was just explaining to us these barrels right here. For example, I can take this barrel, and this barrel. I can put the same beer in it, and that same beer will come out different from every barrel. Something about a membrane or whatsoever. He explained it. I'm bad at explaining it back. But yeah, that's impressive. Okay, tour's done. This is what you end up with the final result. What are you drinking, bud?
No regrets.
No regrets. Whiptail, absolutely delicious beers. And on a side note, I would like to say, don't be a dick. When you're in the bar, tip your bartender well. I'd put her in the shot right now, but she says she doesn't want to be in it. You don't want to be in it?
Or something, I don't know.
She doesn't want to be in it.
I think she has warrants.
That's it.
She's wanted in other countries.
I forgot one thing. I don't usually do things like this, but yeah, kind of a shameless promotion.
If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like this man's channel, subscribe, all that good stuff, and then follow me on Twitter at TheTorvik23.
At TheTorvik23. Don't forget to thank Mike. He's the one that gave us a tour today. Okay, that's really the end
I got
now.
her into the shot when you like.